Disneyland is currently celebrating its 70th anniversary, and with it, it has brought a ton of changes to Main Street, USA, my favorite land. What do you say? Let's go up and down Main Street, USA. Let's explore all the new things that have happened here, and so you can see what's worth your time on your next visit. Brickey here, exploring all the new additions to Main Street, USA with you. And friend, what do you say before we get started? Hit subscribe so we can keep going on these adventures together. One of the things that I love most about Main Street, USA is it's the most perfect land Disney has ever constructed. As the park has now been here for 7 decades, every other land has gone through some pretty major restructuring, except for this one. This was the one that Walt absolutely got right, and it's been imitated both in Disney parks and other theme parks and cities all around the country and the world. So to me, Main Street, USA is where we hear Walt's voice the loudest. And now that Walt has returned to Main Street, we can actually hear his voice again. A little clever tie-in to Walt Disney being inside of the Opera House. Not only was Walt the first one here, as he would walk around and envision his masterpiece, but the Opera House was also the first building here. It was the old mill where most of the facades that you see up and down Main Street and Frontierland were all fabricated right there when it was a shop. And on opening day, it wasn't anything. It would take a while before Babes in Toyland would show up to be the first ever guest offering inside of the Opera House. So it didn't start with Mr. Lincoln. He wouldn't show up till after Walt made Lincoln for the World's Fair in 1964. And what's fascinating is Lincoln, nobody quite knew what he looked like. So making an animatronic of somebody who is already a caricature in society made that task a little bit easier. Walt Disney, the everyman, the common man, little bit harder to pull off an animatronic of Walt. But I tell you what, if you stay away from critiques online, if you go to the show, sit in the theater, no matter where you sit, it feels like Walt is in the room with you. That's what everybody else who's seen it in the theater says. And of course, all the people that have only critiqued it from home will tell you different. Decision is yours. Do you want to buy into the magic or do you want to buy into the criticism? Only you can decide. But you know I bought into the magic. Let's hop over to the Opera House for some new additions. Now, I'm not going to show you every piece of artwork in here, and if you would like for me to do a complete breakdown of everything in this new collection, by all means comment below. I'll get here early one morning or show up late at night and do it when it's not full of people. But I wanted to walk you through the different environments so when you came, you would know what piece speaks most to you. I don't want to ruin it for everybody, so this won't give you every detail. It'll just give you a heads up of what you're looking for. So the very first thing that we walk into is a section that is dedicated to historical Disney concept art, starting with the overall maps and ideas of Disneyland. I love that this is where the gallery starts because this is where the idea began. And I won't show it all to you, but we start with the Griffith Park layout, and then it works its way around to the various different Disneyland layouts. Definitely a very fun, creative journey of showing how you start out with an idea and you keep massaging it as reality and other ideas come into play. Like I said, if you would like for me to start from the beginning and work over to the end, I could literally do an entire video breaking down all of these concept arts, and I will definitely do it, but that's not what we're doing today. We have smaller little installations that are kind of focused in on one part of the park. Here we see lots of different artwork depicting what the ideas would be for Fantasyland. And then there's also a section dedicated to Main Street, USA. And then here in the center of the lobby, we have Adventureland, Frontierland, Tomorrowland, and eventually Walt's Last Land, New Orleans. Showing lots of famous concept artwork, stuff you've probably seen before, but I study this pretty deeply and I've seen several pieces that are new to me. I definitely don't know everything, never claimed to, but just wanted to point that out because even if you know a lot, like many of you do, you'll probably find a couple of surprises if you take the time to walk through and look at this collection. And then where the Disneyland opening day model used to sit, man, I hope that thing comes back at some point. There is a small sampling of what Walt's apartment is like. Now, this is not the exact layout. I've been fortunate enough to be there. It's much wider. This is just a very accurate depiction of all the different colors, patterns, textures that Lillian picked out when decorating the family's home inside of Disneyland. And that gives you kind of an idea of what's on the other side of Walt's lantern. And then in the main room, you'll find an exhibit, a walk-around loop showing the evolution of audio animatronics, starting with Dancing Man and then working over to the bird that I talked about over on Lillian's patio. That idea turned into this idea. And there's a huge collection of Walt's photographs showing him in pivotal moments with his brother Roy, building the business, and at the same time, building the dream. Walt Disney has won more Emmys than anyone else, and just a small sampling of his trophies are on display in this trophy case. And then there are also a couple of shows for you to watch. And if you're hardcore, and I'm pretty sure you are, you'll be able to see some of the different icons speak about their relationship with Walt. But the thing that I'm kind of most excited for Walt Disney is this. Here's his childhood hero, and here he is, just at the exact same level. Not many people make it to that status. Shout out to Walt Disney. How crazy would it have been if this was the version of Walt Disney that they made? I'm only minutes away from showtime. I've bumped into 3 amazing groups of people, all here to watch it for the first time. I think I might go for my 3rd. And then afterwards, circle around and be like, what did you guys think? Citizen of Disneyland, I just found somebody's phone that they left over here. This exhibit, very, very cool. Hey, I'm just hanging out with the Disneys. Lillian, where's my coffee? Walt, have a seat. I want to talk to you about a couple of things. This exhibit, I highly recommend checking out. Your little ones will be very, very bored, so do with what you will with that information. But I think that if you walk through here as a Disney lover of the history and the Disneyland story, you'll find some new pieces in here. They did very well there's a lot of the familiar classics, but they dug deep and showed up with some surprise new entries that I think will, make you remember how difficult this whole struggle was and what Walt was fighting for to make the dream a reality. I have done up front and the back. I'm going to try to get somewhere in the center for my 3rd time.
Walt Disney, A Magical Life. Enjoy the show.
There's a carousel of color.
Throughout his storied career, Walt never gave up, despite the many challenges along the way. For his visionary work, he received hundreds of awards from all corners of the globe, a lifetime of inspiring others. He created dreams that live on today for millions around the world. But with all of that, when asked to name his greatest reward, Walt's reply was surprisingly humble.
So another new development is this mural that has popped up in the exit. Not super a fan of its style, but I do like how many hits are all integrated together in this giant mural, going right to the 70th anniversary logo. From Candlelight to the Bicentennial, Main Street, Donald's Birthday, Lion King, that old parade float, Notre Dame, Fantasmic, Rocket Jets, TWA, Big Thunder, Space Mountain, Mark Twain, Sleeping Beauty, Leota next to a chimney sweep, jazz players, the whole gang represented in one giant mural. And then over on this end, they took all the different famous folks and removed those. And now, instead of famous celebrities, it's actually celebrating, getting choked up. It's celebrating cast members, the real celebrities. Don't get me wrong, it was cool to see all the celebrities that have passed through here. But it's even better to see all the men and women. God, this is getting to me. They put in the hours. None of them got rich, but they lived a wealthy life, making everybody have a magical day inside of Disneyland. And damn, that outfit is so good. This is probably the best photo. But, God, man, it's getting me. Wow. This is probably the best photo because it shows a blue-collar job, not a fancy job, the one that needs to get done. Walt wanted Disneyland to always be clean, to be safe, to be family-friendly. And nobody works harder for that than the custodial staff here at Disneyland. I wasn't expecting this to hit me so hard, but as I'm narrating it, I'm thinking about it like they got rid of all the celebrities and celebrated all the real people that brought Walt's magic to life. Nothing against Jim Henson and Elvis Presley and all the other people that were up here, MJ, but yeah, these are the real celebrities at Disneyland because they're the people that literally sacrifice a lot to make magical moments for your family and mine. So from Sexy Tarzan to Areola to somebody getting everything just right in the Haunted Mansion, it indeed does require people to make a dream the reality. I've now seen it 3 times. All 3 times as I exit the theater, I listen to everyone around me. Have yet to hear anybody complain that actually watched it. It's a magical moment. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you give it a open mind when you go to see it, because I don't know why it's bumming me out so much that people are trashing it. I think it's a solid B+, A-. All right, let's move on. There's more magic to discover. Wasn't expecting the 3rd time through to affect me as much as it did. Disneyland makes me weak. Friends, Walt Disney isn't the only member of the Disney family to have some new developments on Main Street. Lillian Disney finally has her own window on Main Street, which if you don't know is the same as being in the Disney Hall of Fame to get tributed with a window on the beloved Main Street. There's even a couple of real life characters that have windows over in Adventureland and Frontierland, but most of the Hall of Fame is celebrated here in the heart of Walt's Park. So it's about time that Lillian Disney, Walt's wife, got her own window, but as well her own patio that has lots of storytelling devices. Let's hop over there and break down how Lillian's story is being told above the old coffee house. Let's start with the most obvious one that I hear people call out as they walk by. There is a Mickey Mouse sitting out there on the deck, and that's for a very important reason. The way the story is told, Walt Disney, brokenhearted, riding on a train from New York back home to California, was sitting there bitter that he had just lost ownership of his first big hit, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And on this famous train ride, Walt would come up with his next great idea, Mortimer Mouse. Mortimer Mouse. Mortimer? Am I saying it right? That's the problem right there. Lillian, like every great wife, would instantly point out to her husband,
good idea, you're close, but you're still a mile away.
It was her foresight to say, that name is horrible, and she helped Walt come up with the name Mickey Mouse. That's a big reason why Mickey's sitting out on the deck. But another great storytelling device on Lillian's deck is the bird in the cage, because Lillian was with Walt when he was in New Orleans, when he saw the famous bird in the cage, that would then go on to inspire audio animatronics. He saw this little animated bird, took it back to California and said, we need to pull this thing apart and figure out how we do this back home at Disneyland. You will also find some of these birds in cages over in New Orleans. So it's kind of an extension of that story. Fun to see that on Main Street. You'll also find what appears to be some sort of stringed instrument. I'm not sure what kind of violin or all that it is, because where I come from, we just call it a fiddle. Yeah, I'm from Kentucky. Now, I can't honestly say if Lillian was a musician or not, but I do know that when you go into Club 33, when you're waiting to either go into Club Nouveau or go over to the dining area, Lillian's harp is sitting right there in the main entryway. So she did at least collect musical instruments, not sure of her music ability, but fun to see another piece of that part of her personality out there. And the last piece I think is just really great storytelling, that on an easel there is a painting of the firehouse. pretty much at the perspective that you would see it if you were sitting on that deck. So imagining someone, Walt's wife, sitting out on the patio and painting the firehouse, that's very, very romantic and Disney nostalgia. And it's also cool because that was their home inside of the park. Modest, small apartment, a section of it replicated over in the new Walt exhibit. But seeing that painting over there and having that be the perspective of where the firehouse is, that just adds in that storytelling that makes Main Street USA feel real. Perfect little storytelling vignette. Although I would say as a designer, maybe one too many stories, like 4 stories on one patio kind of feels like a lot. Maybe a little bit of subtlety would have been the way that I went with it, but I do appreciate that they're trying their hardest to tell Lillian's story. But it's also adorned with lots and lots of flowers, and from what I've seen of her decoration skills, the woman loved floral patterns, which probably means she also loved flowers. And then on the banner below, it says, "Inspiring Worlds of Color," which is a fantastic nod to behind every great person, there's usually another person. And I know that I wouldn't be standing where I'm at today with the amount of success and love that I have in my heart without my great wife, Beth. Lillian was 100% the mind behind so many of Walt's victories. So Inspiring Worlds of Color, that's amazing because Walt Disney's TV show, The Wonderful World of Color. She inspired probably a lot of those ideas. And the other thing that she's noted for inspiring on there is happiness. Walt seemed to exemplify happy wife, happy life. I mean, she was pretty rad. She let him mortgage everything in order to build Disneyland. So shout out to Lillian. Without her support, Walt wouldn't be the man that he is, and we wouldn't have the world that we do. Now, I guarantee you that if you could get up on that balcony, whatever this sheet music is there, I bet that's a great Easter egg, and one that only few people will ever know. To be one of the few. Now, another little detail that has showed up, there are these historical plaques that are now on Main Street. There's a new one next to the old cannon in Town Square, a plaque over here next to the entryway of the Opera House, and then there is a third one. Walt never wanted Disneyland to be a museum. But it's starting to get to a moment after 7 decades, some things do need to be preserved and celebrated. So I enjoy that these new little plaques give people an indication that are paying attention what the story is all around them. For example, here at the Magic Shop, this is the last store on Main Street that hasn't been edited. These are the original floors, countertops. This is what every store looked like 7 decades ago. And here is the third plaque sitting right outside of the old music store, now where they pin trade, celebrating the cigar store Indian. One of those historical Disneyland icons. And man, oh man, the things that the chief has seen. And right next to him, there's something new brewing over at the Main Street Cinema, where there's now a small documentary playing about the Sherman Brothers. Now, I'm not going to show it, because I want you to enjoy it. I'm gonna go watch it and then give you my thoughts on the backside. Just outside of the old music shop is where the brothers have their name memorialized in Disney's Walk of Fame. And more new artwork out on the streets of Main Street USA, which I'm all here for. Well, friends, just a week later, it looks like I'm the only one here. Hi. Very, very short, but very impactful little movie that really shows the power of just one song. One song can change the world, and that song did. And it is truly amazing what one song can mean to so many different people and so many different ways you can experience it. And the little deaf girl singing it literally broke my heart. Extremely powerful Disney moment. Highly recommend it. Your kids won't care for it, but it's short enough that maybe it'll catch their attention. And I have a similar complaint for this that I have with Walt Disney. The volume's too low. The speakers are in the back. Those 2 screens is where you can hear it the most. So if there's people in there that are talking or being loud, that's where you want to go if you really want to be able to hear the show. That was fantastic. And one last edition. It's been here for a while, but the ginormous oversized key thing that people buy has a little installation here in one of those spots where nobody used to come, but they're finding new ways to get people to discover corners of the park that they never went to before. A couple of quick thoughts about the new additions to Main Street USA. They're definitely not designed for children. They're designed for adults, people that are engrossed in the Disneyland story and the Walt Disney story. And this is part of a trend that I've been noticing over the last couple of years that I, for one, am a huge fan of. As Mickey Mouse is Disney's greatest mascot and one of the most famous animated characters ever, if not the most famous one ever, Disney has started to pivot and create a second mascot. Let Mickey be for everybody, the young and young at heart, but let's use our second mascot to be something that motivates and inspires adults. And that second mascot is Walt Disney, the man himself. You've been seeing a push over the last handful of years to characterize Walt, to make him be a mascot or a motivator or an inspiration for adults. And why not? The man's story is the American dream personified. And even though Disney has done a great job of telling some of the world's best stories, they've always done a bad job at telling their own. But if you'll notice, both with the new additions to Main Street USA and the recently announced changes coming to the animation courtyard at Disney's Hollywood Studios, Disney is starting to learn that one of the greatest stories they can tell is their own. And I have been enjoying this shift in perspective for quite some time, as I love the Disney story and I love sharing it and telling it to each of you. Friend, if you love the Disneyland story like I do, make sure you check out this video right here, which is my telling of the 70th anniversary. It's an emotional version of what happened on that day, and if you weren't here, it's what it felt like. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate you all. I'll see you here Sunday. Tomorrow, I'm on the main channel, Hey Brickey, with a great story to tell about Disneyland's Missing River.